Have you ever noticed something strange about silence online? In a world where everyone is posting, someone chooses not to. And somehow, that silence feels louder than noise. We live in an age where everything is shared. Every moment is captured. Every emotion is displayed. Birthdays, coffee, sunsets, even pain. But then, there are people who don't post at all. They watch. They observe. They stay invisible. And the question is, why? Why would someone choose to stay unseen? Most people assume something simple. They're shy. They're introverted. But psychology says it's deeper than that, because silence is not always weakness. Sometimes it's control. Think about it. When you don't post, you decide what the world never gets to see. That's power. In fact, behavioral psychology shows something interesting. People who post less often have higher introspection, stronger emotional independence. They are not trying to impress the world. They are trying to understand themselves. And that's rare, because most people don't post to share. They post to be seen. Every picture says something. Every caption asks something silently. Do you approve? But when you stop posting, something changes. You stop performing. You start living. Moments become yours again, not content. And here's where it gets interesting. There are actually 5 hidden psychological reasons behind this behavior. Most people only see the surface, but reason number 1 is something they completely miss. It's called identity detachment. When you don't post, you stop tying your identity to validation. No likes, no comments, no digital applause, just you. And that scares most people, because we've been trained to measure worth through attention. But some people break that loop, and when they do, they don't just disappear. They evolve. Now here's where it goes deeper. Reason number 2, it becomes public, open to judgment, open to misunderstanding. So some people protect their moments, not out of fear. They keep their life. Triggers a reward in your brain. It's addictive. But some people choose to step away from that loop, and that takes discipline. Now, ask yourself something honestly, without thinking of posting it. That reflex isn't natural. It's conditioned, and breaking it feels like freedom. But not everyone who stays silent is at peace. And this is where reason number 4 comes in. Self-presentational pressure. It's exhausting. So instead of performing, they withdraw. You become unshakable. And here's the paradox. The people who don't post often feel life the most deeply. They notice things others ignore. They experience instead of display. And maybe that's the real truth. In a world obsessed with being seen, silence becomes a form of rebellion. A quiet statement that says, I exist even if you don't see me. And maybe that's the most powerful kind of existence. But here's something most people never realize. Silence is not emptiness. It's depth. The kind of depth that doesn't need an audience. Because when you stop posting, you start noticing things differently. Time feels slower. Moments feel heavier. Conversations feel real. You are no longer splitting your attention. Half living, half documenting. You are just present. And presence is rare. In fact, psychology suggests something powerful here. People who detach from constant social sharing experience higher emotional clarity. They think better, they feel deeper, they react less, because their mind is not distracted by perception. It's grounded in reality. And that changes everything. Because now, you are not asking, how does this look? You are asking, how does this feel? That shift is everything. And yet, this kind of silence is often misunderstood. People assume you're disconnected, cold, distant. But the truth is the opposite. You're just no longer performing connection. You're seeking something real. Something that doesn't need proof. Something that doesn't need posting. Because real connection doesn't live on screens. It lives in presence, in attention, in moments that no one else sees. And maybe that's why the quiet ones often understand the most. But there's another side to this. Not all silence is strength. Sometimes it's exhaustion. Because social media doesn't just connect people, it compares them constantly. You see everyone's highlights while you're living your behind, and slowly, without even realizing it, you start questioning yourself. Am I doing enough? Am I enough? That pressure builds quietly, until one day, you step back, not out of weakness, but survival. You stop posting, not to disappear, but to recover. to breathe, to think again. And that's something most people don't talk about. Silence can be healing, because when you stop broadcasting, you start listening to your own thoughts, your own needs, your own direction. You reconnect with yourself. And in today's world, that's powerful, because most people are disconnected from themselves. They know how to show their life, but not how to live it. And the ones who stop posting, they begin to rebuild that connection quietly. And then something strange starts to happen. You stop needing attention, not because you can't get it, but because you don't need it anymore. That's freedom, real freedom. Because now, your happiness is not dependent on reactions. Your value is not measured in likes. Your life is not a performance. It's real, unfiltered, messy, but real. And that's where identity becomes solid. Because when no one is watching and you still feel complete, that's confidence. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the unshakable kind. And here's the truth most people avoid. We've confused visibility with value. We think being seen means being important. But that's not true. Some of the most important moments in your life will happen in silence. No audience, no applause, no proof, just you. And those moments, they shape you, they define you, they build who you are. And maybe that's why some people choose to stay invisible, not because they have nothing to show, but because they have something worth protecting. So the next time you see someone who never posts, don't assume they're hiding. Look deeper. Maybe they've understood something that most people haven't, that not everything needs to be shared, that not everything needs validation, that some things are more powerful when they remain private. Because once something becomes public, it changes. It becomes influenced, judged, distorted. But when it stays with you, it stays real. And maybe that's the real psychology behind silence. It's not absence, it's intention. It's choosing depth over display, truth over performance, meaning over attention. And in a world that constantly says, "Look at me," choosing silence is a quiet form of power. A statement without words, a presence without noise. Because in the end, you are not a performance. You are a person, and the people who understand that don't feel the need to prove it. They just live it, quietly, deeply, fully. And maybe that's what real life was always supposed to feel like.